obviously my first question is, how many of you know what vStorefront is? Like, knew before? Oh, that's cool. So vStorefront is backend agnostic and headless PWA for Magento, but not only for Magento. And we started a little bit more than 1.5 years ago by doing PWAs from the day zero. And right now we are the most mature PWA solution out there because of the community efforts. We are production ready for almost half of the year. We have huge community. There are meetups dedicated to vStorefront. There are vStorefront hackathons. We have 2,300 GitHub stars, which is even more than PrestaShop. So far, so good. So during this presentation, I will try to more or less tell you what we learned doing all of this. I will try to share with you our architecture, our approach to PWA, to being offline, and what, from our point of view, is important when doing solutions like this. So first of all, we wanted to be backend agnostic. Why we want to be backend agnostic? Because, first of all, why not? Because we are totally detached from the backend. So it would be we would lose a big opportunity by being tightly coded to the backend. So right now, thanks to this backend agnostic approach, we can do a lot of cool stuff. Like, for example, front-end developers don't need to be aware of the backend solution that stands on the backend. They just need to know the modern JS frameworks, which is great not only for developers, it's also great for employees, because it's much easier to hire JavaScript developers than front-end developers specialized in e-commerce platform, especially Magento. They are kind of unicorns. And the second thing is we want it to be fast and reliable, which means not only the customers that visiting the shop can rely on this, but also the customers that are using it, so the companies. How we managed it? It's very fast on front end. It's extremely fast on front end. It even works offline because we are using PWA technology, which most of you probably know. But we're also very fast on the back end because we managed to have at some point our own backend, which is speaking to the e-commerce backend. And thanks to this, if the e-commerce backend API is slow, then we don't care because we are still using our own. And the most important value for us is that we are developer-oriented. So developer experience is one of our priorities. We want developers to be happy. We want them to learn cool things on the latest technology stack. And I'm a developer, so I believe if developers are happy and they are motivated, they want to work, then everything else is just a piece of cake. Also, vStorefront is a framework. This is very important when building solutions like this, because we don't want to limit anyone. We just want to give people tools so they can build anything they want. And this is what vStorefront is. vStorefront is a set of tools to build a PWA frontend, headless PWA frontend. Of course, as I said before, it's a PWA. In Magento community, it is a big buzzword, but I think it's kind of worth all this buzz because basically progressive web apps are the web apps that are done in a good way, like they are done right. So we are taking advantage of all the latest APIs that enables very, very smooth user experience, but also we are more mature in terms of delivering to mobile. So we are 100% progressive web app. And we wanted to enable seamless upgrades because the part of the developer experience, of good developer experience, is enabling people to benefit from all the features that we are shipping to them without making them worry about the update itself. So we have vStorefront core, which is a separate NPM package. And this vStorefront core is totally upgradable, is totally detached. And in most cases, people just don't need to take care of the update, they just do npm upgrade, everything still works. If it's not working, if it will not work, then we are putting some short upgrade notes, but most of the updates are just seamless. This is great because you can't achieve it with Magento, but if you will detach your front end from Magento, then basically everything is doable. And the biggest and most important fact about Vue Storefront is that we are open source and mid-licensed from the day zero. So Vue Storefront is not like a single company effort. It's a community effort to make better e-commerce overall. We have 28 agencies, as far as I remember, who are partners. All of them are working on Vue Storefront right now. So if you don't believe that it's totally community effort, just take a look at these numbers. So we have 800 community members on our Slack. They're very active. There is always a discussion on our Slack. As I said before, we have 3,300 GitHub stars, which makes us in top 10 e-commerces in the world. Right now, even more popular than PrestaShop. And so far, 85 people committed their code to Vue Storefront, and most of them are not only one-time contributors, which is great. So it's a really community-driven project. And the amazing thing is that we managed to have all of this in less than 1.5 years. So we came production ready almost half a year ago. And it was after less than 1 year of development. So this is the real power of community, because you can achieve great results in a short time, and a lot of people are looking at this code, a lot of people have their own ideas, and at the end you're ending up with great software. So now when I shared with you our core values, which are, I'd say, mandatory for us, where when we are doing anything, we are looking at these core values and checking if it's compatible with them. Now it's time to dig a little bit deeper into technicals. So how Vue Storefront works, basically, as I said, it's totally framework agnostic. So most of these parts are framework agnostic. At the left, we can see e-commerce CMS. In our case, it's Magento. This e-commerce CMS is an API adapter, which is pulling all the data from this to our Elasticsearch NoSQL database. And once it's there, it works like typical single-page application. So Vue Storefront itself is a front-end part. Vue Storefront API is just its API. And it speaks to the database. So basically, the right part is just a regular single-page application. But what makes it unique is the left part that enables to use any backend, any e-commerce backend, but not only e-commerce. You can connect also WooCommerce for content, etc. To this. And what is the best, thanks to the fact that Vue Storefront API always has the same format, you can, for example, migrate from Magento 1.9 to newer versions of Magento without changing any single line of code on front end. Yeah, and we also have real-time synchronization between this database and between our e-commerce CMS, so it's it's always up to date. As I said before, this backend agnostic factor is very, very important for us. Even if you're like Magento oriented, you still should think about being backend agnostic because it just makes things simpler. You don't need to care about your backend updates if you're a front-end developer. It's completely detached. Our biggest, I say, the hardest thing for us in terms of developer experience was to deliver a good teaming experience. So when you're a front-end framework, then you need to focus on this a lot. And we wanted to somehow combine the limitless customizability with giving developers as much as we can out of the box. So they don't need to code everything. They just need to focus on getting things done. So it took us a long time to be at this, to achieve this architecture, to achieve this approach. Probably it will be even better in the future, but so far it works like this. In a short words, there are two parts that you need to be aware of. One part is the theme. It's basically your shop. It contains markup, styles, some custom application-specific logic. But the second part is view storefront core. View storefront core is totally upgradable part that you shouldn't touch. You can extend it from the team. You can make use of this. Basically, it's this framework. It's a set of tools that you can use inside your teams to make all of this work. And view storefront core is upgradable. In your team, you're making use of these functions. You can override them. You can extend them. But the core itself is upgradable. OK, it wasn't 4 sentences, but, well, in here there are. So how it works, it was 10, you counted. Don't do it. OK, so let's start with an example. So let's say we want to make a microcard component in our application. So in our view storefront core, we don't only have logic required for the shop to work, but we also have logic required for all the components to work. So given that, let's have an example of making this microcard component. This is a core microcard component. For those who don't know Vue.js, we are basically, in here, we are speaking with our Vuex, which is a Flux implementation, which is a state management pattern. So we are talking to the business logic of our shop. And inside core, you have only the business logic, nothing more. But inside team, you can make use of this business logic. So this is all you need to do to inject the business logic from here inside your component. That's all. You need to import it and inject it as a Vue.js mixin. So right now, when you have this, we can just style it. So as you can see, we're making use of all these functions and computer properties in our template. And this is all you need to have working microcard in view storefront. Of course, you can extend some of these functions. You can replace them. You can write your own business logic. But if you have a very basic shop and you want to rely only on the core, you can, because you don't need anything else. Everything else is a custom feature. This is all you need to have. This is all you need to do to have working microcard. Now imagine this in Magento. And at this point, I want to point out that, at least for me, as I said before, developer experience is the most important part, because we are building something from scratch. So when we are building something from scratch, we obviously want to solve some problems that already exist. And probably the biggest problem in Magento frontend is developer experience itself. So we really wanted to focus on this. We wanted to bring back the joy of creating teams in Magento. And so far, it's amazing. I mean, you can ask any member of our community how it is. Also, it's your only chance to speed up the process. So when we created all this teaming process, we really focused on making it enjoyable and fast. And so I think we did a great job, but there's obviously a lot to improve still. OK, so this is basic overview of what we have, of what we wanted to achieve, and what are the goals. So now when you more or less know what view storefront is and how it works, I want to share with you some lessons learned after doing this PWA for more than 1 year. And obviously, the offline capabilities are very tempting, because PWA is somehow about offline, because PWAs are meant to replace the native apps. But even though it's very tempting, it's also very risky, because you can imagine a lot of edge cases, a lot of situations. While offline, for example, if you're placing orders, you need to deal with stock quantities. You need to deal with checkout coupons and checkout rules, etc., which are not always available where you are offline. And it's kind of hard from the UX perspective to tell your users that, hey, you can place this order, but you may pay for this a little bit more, or some of the items may not be available, etc. So I think the safe way in here is to enable offline catalog, like offline browsing, maybe with adding to the wish list, but stop here. Don't go further. Don't go to adding to the cart. Don't try to proceed offline orders. Of course, there are some cases where it's doable. Right? For example, if you're selling a digital product, it's always on stock. So this might be a case where offline orders are good. But even if you will have these offline orders, you shouldn't interact like with payments, etc. that much. You should allow user to, for example, fill all the checkout, then leave the page. This is, by the way, the feature that we have right now in the storefront. So user is able to fill all the checkout, click place order. After clicking this, we are telling them, hey, you're offline, you can't place the order, but once you come back online, you will receive a push notification. You can click on this and then confirm your order. So user can review the order. For example, in case of some stock quantities changed or some checkout rules applied, etc. So this is the offline browsing part. Okay, I already told about it. Oh, I also told about this. Okay, the second thing is these headless approaches. All of them are built on modern JavaScript frameworks. Probably most of you know if you are front-end developers, but they are not that much crawlable. I mean, it's hard to do a CEO for this because it's generated by JavaScript. So what crawler is seeing after entering the page is just a blank page, maybe some very, very basic markup containing title and HTML tag and body tag, but nothing more. Everything else is generated from the JavaScript itself. It may not be indexed, so the very, very important part for the shops is the server-side rendering. So you need to render everything server-side, push it, and then hydrate it with frameworks. So with this approach, the SEO will still be awesome, even though we are using JavaScript. The second thing is you shouldn't rely on PWA features. Like, they're awesome. They enable flawless stuff, like all this being offline, using it instead of native apps, push notifications. There are a lot of more APIs working on low level that enable crazy stuff, but you shouldn't rely on this because they are not supported in all the browsers, so not everyone can benefit from them. And there is a principle called progressive enhancement. So progressive enhancement is basically providing a baseline of all the functionalities that are in your shop. And then for those who support them, for those who support the modern APIs, extend them, enhance them a little bit. So we can imagine that the very, very basic behavior for us would be placing an order. But if user is supporting like caching service workers, then we can enable also offline browsing of the catalog. If it's supporting push notifications, then we can enable some offline orders. But if it's not supporting push notifications, we can, for example, fall back to emails. So always think about cases like this, because by relying on PWA features for your shop to work, you may end up with this shop not working in the older browsers, which is not good. So always think about this progressive enhancement. And as I said before, with this offline, you shouldn't be 100% offline, but it's not only about placing an orders, because we tend to think about being offline like, oh, okay, so what will happen if user is in a plane for 10 hours and he wants to place an order? This is not a real case scenario. Real case scenario is like someone is on a tube, someone is on a train, he loses connection like for 3, 4, 5 minutes, something like this. So we want our application to be reliable and fast even in these situations, even on uncertain circumstances, on slow network or even lack of network connectivity. But the real worst scenario is not being offline like for 10 hours. So you should also think about this. Okay, so after this short lessons learned, I want to share with you some shops on production that we made. You can check them on your mobile phones or on your laptops to see how they work, how they are making use of PWA, because each implementation is different. Each implementation is using these features in a different way. Not all of them, for example, have add to home screen feature. Not all of them have offline orders. So the first one is probably the most recent one, Special Milano by our partner Bitbull. The second one is the Hourglass. This one is from Singapore, which is crazy. They are not even our partners, but they made this shop. Another one is, the funny story behind this one is we had no idea it was made. We still don't know who made it because VStorefront is open source, so people are just taking the software, making the shops, and after some time we are discovering these shops. So this one is made by Whirlpool. It's Cucina Barilla. We can also check this. This one is a POC made by our partner Get Noticed. Right now it's treated as a demo, but they told us that they want to go production and sell RAM with this, so this is also amazing. And this is one of the oldest ones, but probably the best looking one. So this is a Elena Tour by KT team from Russia. You can also check this one. And now we want to announce something, because like 1 month ago at Reacticon, we announced VStorefront 2.0. So after 1 month, we want to make another announcement, and I want to invite Peter, who is the second co-founder of VStorefront, to step on the stage and do the announcement.
Thanks, Filip. Hi, guys. I'm really happy to be here again. I remember that last year when I was announcing VStorefront on the same stage here, we were really stressed out, like, if we can manage to build this thing, if it make it happen. And we did it with huge help from the community, from our partners who contributed a lot, with help of our customers who believe in the product and run those shops that Filip showed you, and many others. So we were really happy with that. And we were thinking, like, what we can do more to contribute to product, to our partners. So we thought of this Storefront Cloud. It's mobile-first commerce solution based on
Storefront Cloud.
More you've got, because I want to make sure 2 minutes. Yeah. All right.
Okay.
So just very briefly, like Storefront Cloud is a mobile-first e-commerce platform. It's based on the VStorefront open source product. So it's our commitment to keep this product really, like, pushing it really hard with new features and all this kind of stuff. We added a few other things: accelerated mobile pages, open loyalty platform for customer engagement. It's available in the platform as a service model. It's based on Kubernetes. So, we are trying with this product to support our partners, because SLA guarantee on VStorefront bugs, updates, all this kind of stuff is up to us. So our partners can just focus on building really cool e-commerce sites. And for the merchants, the promise is also very simple, very easy to understand. Like, you can get this PWA up and running in 60 days and just increase your revenues. If you are having like 5 million mobile revenue, you can do another million, like 36% of conversion rate up on VStorefront is something that we saw many times. So this is our business proposition. We are starting the closed beta access program for our partners today. So if your agency wanted to learn more on that, just contact us via storefrontcloud.io webpage or write to me directly. We will onboard you with all the technical materials. There are some pretty cool tools, command line tools and web access tools to do all these, Git flow deployments, processes, and all this kind of stuff. So it's really a product. It really works pretty well. We will publish also some detailed information on that, how it works, probably tomorrow with some demo video. So bear with us, and I'm happy to answer all your questions after this presentation. That's all. Thanks.
Do we have time for questions?
Yeah. Well, you know what? We've got time for about 2 or 3 questions. I want to make sure everybody gets a break for lunch. So we run back here and grab this one.
All right. Does this work? All right. Awesome. So I kind of have a 2-part question. The first one is, how did you come to choose Vue in particular? Because obviously Magento PWA Studio uses React. And second question, part of that is, what do you do if Evan dies? What's the kind of strategy there?
Is it working? It is, okay. So maybe I will answer the first question, why we chose Vue.js, because a lot of people are asking this question. I heard it at least 3 times today. So we know everything is on React, of course, but we chose Vue.js because of the very, very simple reason. It's much easier to scale. It's much simpler to develop in Vue.js. So it's quite hard to hire good Magento front-end developers. It's also quite hard to hire good React developers because there is a huge demand on them. Vue.js, on the other hand, is growing. It surpassed React recently. It's more popular on GitHub than React. It's crazy how fast it's evolving, but it's still much easier to find developers specialized in Vue.js and hire them. This is the first reason. The second one is the developer experience. I know we don't have much time. So the second one is the developer experience. It's just much, much better. If you know anyone working with Vue.js, just ask him if he likes it, because this is the main reason of the popularity of the Vue.js. It's extremely easy to learn, and it's extremely, I'd say, it's a great pleasure to work with this framework. Okay, so.
And the second question, could you repeat the second question?
So what happens if Evan Yu dies? Because he's the sole maintainer of Vue. Obviously, it's a community solution, but 99% of the code base is written by him. So have you guys considered that scenario or talked about it?
Could you repeat the question? I didn't get it.
Sure, Evan Yu.
I can barely hear you. Sorry.
Oh, Evan Yu.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Evan Yu, the maintainer of Vue.js.
Yeah.
What do you do if he dies?
There are some articles on the internet, basically, that are just asking the philosophical questions: what if the dinosaur will eat Evan Yu, and will Vue.js will survive? And the good news is it will survive because Evan Yu is the creator, the core contributor, but right now most of the stuff is done by the core team. Of course, he's still contributing a lot, but the core team of Vue.js is huge, is wide, it's spread from all over the world. I think if you're asking about Vue.js survival, I don't think that's the case. I mean, it's so huge. It's huge in Europe, it's huge in USA, but it's nothing compared to Asia.
Yeah,
so
I think that's also the answer. If he die, hopefully not. Like hopefully not. So Alibaba probably would take care of that. They put a lot of production sites, really huge ones, on Vue.js. I cannot imagine that they just will re-platform it. So yeah.